Welcome back, everybody, to the NECC for some more Overwatch action. It is game 4 of the afternoon, maybe nighttime. What do you describe mid-afternoon to evening? What's the difference?
This is definitely evening. It's dark outside where
Okay.
I am. Well, to be fair, it's dark outside now, early everywhere, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's dark
Infernos is,
outside. It's
yeah.
it's it's dark
There's no
outside.
escape from it now that the clocks have changed, whatever reason that happens for. But yes, I'd say this is early evening. That's where I'd put this.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the NECC for some more Overwatch action. It is late in the evening, and match 4 is ready and raring to go. My name is Infernos, is joined here by the wonderful Corbeck. We've got ourselves 2 teams ready and raring to go. First and foremost, Corbeck, who are the 2 teams, and where are they right now sitting in our bracket?
Well, it is Southern Miss, aka Eagle Esports, right there at Centre College. So they are sitting at 4 and 5. So very much a mid-table matchup here between these two squads. Dead center, really coming into this, and their records very similar as well. Infernosis, both 5 and 2 on the season, which is relatively good for them. A couple of very competitive squads here in Challengers Yellow. It's genuinely almost a shame to see them hit each other because I've enjoyed watching both of them so far this season. I'm very, very curious to see who will come out on top of this matchup.
I'm trying to look over at their records here. These teams haven't faced each other, have they?
I do not believe they have faced each other. No, this is completely fresh in terms of them going against one another.
Well, Centre College faced a team in week 1 named Eastern Eagles.
Different,
not Eagle Esports.
Pesky birds, man. There's a lot of different species.
Yeah, and there's a guy named
That's...
Crow on Centre College. There's a lot of aviation right now. It's a very
Yeah,
avian-centered kind of thing. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, when they're both tied here, 4th and 5th seed, respectively, 5 and 2 each, that kind of leads to a large amount of indicators for we don't know what's going to happen. Both of these teams have had success here in the season. They've had success playing it out, and now we get to see these 2 teams that have had a very nice job together duke it out in one of the most important games, probably the most important game they have so far here in the season. Playoffs, round 1. Winner takes all to go to the semifinals, and will probably face the number 1 seed as they're facing the 8th seed. So unless there's a big underdog story, they'll have to face a very difficult opponent going forward.
Yeah, that is ultimately the wind up here as we get started on Nepal. Whoever wins this is looking at something a big grim, but very similar brawl composition here. The Cassidy Jacob kind of replacing Vector's position as the Reaper on the other side. I'll be quite interested to see what the big difference is there as well. Of course, the off-tank stack with the Zarya as well is something to keep note of here as we go for the initial engage.
Fight has to engage at some point, and an ice wall will go down to try to give Centre College a little bit of leeway on the actual objective towards the fight, but you already see Crow trying to freeze down the opposition's tank, but the Immortality Field is barely keeping Juicebox alive. It doesn't seem to matter. Bruce, Goose, and Jacob, they find the first 2, both tanks down for Centre College, and they'll follow suit by taking out one of their main healers of Jellyman.
Yeah, the overarching damage mitigation coming out of the Southern Mississippi side is just much stronger, all things considered. The Baptiste in there with the Immortality Field, obviously super clutch. They have the stun in the form of E.G. Jacobs' flashbang coming in here as well, and they have the Diva Eat. And I don't quite think that the Zarya has been able to match that just yet, though Blocku is very close to a big charge. But look at this Juicebox hero! Just levels the entire team and cleans them up, and that was all they needed there.
What's the line fellow likes to say? Some of you might know not here for Overwatch. He did 1 game, so maybe they would. Buddy ace across the board as it's Jacob and Juicebox to clean up all 6. 3 for each of them. They'll each clean up for a large amount, but that doesn't really buy too much time. When everyone wipes out so quickly, it's only like an extra 5-10%. Beyond that, honestly, it's probably better for them to all die in the same exact spell swoop, except for the ult economy. But you do hear the ultimates going off. You can see that they're going to drop down the garage door and try to amplify their damage as the Ant Matrix goes through. Jake will be the first to find a kill. Reflex on the Mei will be able to take 1 more. That's both tanks once again for Centre College. Their healing backline has just not been outputting enough heals to keep their tanks in these fights, which has made it so disadvantageous for them the longer the fight goes on.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, and definitely some good early ult usage coming out on the side of Southern Miss as well. I mean, that last engagement with the big shatter, that was a classic example. I was expecting them to take their time and position the engagement here, and I could hand that over to you for the actual call, gift wrapped in a bow. No. And Juicebox Hero said, no, jumped right in there. It's got another shatter he's coming up on here, which is going to be incredibly impactful. Add Bruce Goose's Diva Bomb in, and you have a very powerful all combo indeed.
Looking to step up. They took the high ground. Now coming on the side. But once again, a massive shadow from Juicebox Hero, and the team is gift wrapped for them. Didn't necessarily need the handoff there either here, Korvac, as it's over as soon as it starts. And this one, in fact, is just going to be over as a whole. 96% Diva Bomb's just going to be sent out. Southern Miss, no. They were entirely aware of what it was. Even blocking the opposing side says, yeah, I'll throw out the old Graviton Surge, give it the old, what's the term? Give it the old best try. What's the term? You know.
College try? College?
That's it.
Is that?
Yeah, the old college try. That's quite literal.
How
yeah,
appropriate.
I guess that makes sense. How appropriate.
All things considered. Yeah, it was a very dominant performance there, to be honest, from Southern Miss. I genuinely feel like there was never a moment in that match where they weren't in the driver's seat. Very good early ult usage to apply the pressure. But I mean, I think we could both agree here, right? And for us, the defining factor was Juicebox Hero hitting 2 massive shatters. I mean, essentially just won his team 2 fights with very minimal ult investment. And when you can win fights at that low of a cost and maintain kind of your ult economy going forward, it just puts you so far ahead of your opponents. But we'll see if things change here on Sanctum.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit different. You obviously need to push from multiple directions. Reflex, how are you alive? Right will be the one who comes up big, though. We'll boop off, too. It's going to remove the Lucio and the Mei, and they'll have to bring themselves back over the edge as well. But they're survived with the Lucio wall. It'll be the rest of his team to clean up. Pasty, Juicebox, and Reflex find 3 more. That's going to be first point going in favor of Southern Miss, and it was exceedingly favored for them once Riot got the double boof off the side.
Yeah, that was a pretty big play there from Riot. You don't usually see a Lucio get kind of that golden boop right there on this particular engage on Sanctum, but when it does happen as an off-support player, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world.
That's the phrase, good soup. That was exactly what it was, as they drop down below into the soup and take their drink, but fight has to engage at some point. Juicebox Hero gets a little bit over-aggressive. They come in through the side entrance, loses his life early, and now the rest of Centre College can now pay what they've done. Southern Miss losing 4 in a row now as Riot, Bruce Goose, and now Jacob will lose their life, and they're just going to have to hard reset. Point will drop over to Centre College's side. From the very get-go of that engagement, Juicebox Hero overextended, lost his life, and then the rest of his side didn't have a tank to hit behind, and they just kind of fizzled out of all their energy.
Yeah, it's taking a long time to go back in, but they finally do engage. Dive coming up from the Winston right there. Will not find the target, but Juicebox Hero using the Primal almost immediately juggles things around. Blaku, though, trying to shut it down. A very good Diva Bomb early on as Jellymane will unleash the Coalescence here as well, just to keep Sustain up through this entire fight. In fact, both of the Moiras unleashing their Coalescence in here respectively as Reflex comes in with the Death Blossom, hunting for kills, but he won't find him. And now Galvanijo is coming in as well on that dive, trying to make something happen with the Winston, and instead, though, well, Monkey Supremacy on the point belongs to Juicebox Hero there, and for Gnosis, they are not able to shut that Winston down, and a good win for Southern Miss.
Yeah, great retake. Did not really allow for too much in terms of the long con fight. It was a very long fight. They only needed the one real fight to get it going, though, and that was where they were able to return it. But we're just now equaling tie territory. Centre College still has plenty of time to make the return. They hit to about the 80% mark, and maybe a bit more dangerous than they anticipated, but they got a couple good fights to give it the old college try, as we've mentioned, and an EMP is ready. It'll actually be exposed. 4 players being EMP'd on the opposing side. Centre College has their work cut out for them, but it's still falling apart in multiple directions. Kills dropping for both sides. You can see now as Juicebox is trying to remove the opposition's Diva. Blaku is just being completely snuffed out, demech'd, and now being toyed with as they're waiting for them to wait out the spawn timer, and the Coalescence will complete the job. Pasty just throwing it in their face with that can-do attitude. 75% now for the Southern Miss side.
Could have held on to the Coalescence probably, to be honest, but it is an ult that charges relatively quickly, so you still have a pretty significant advantage in the ult economy. Unfortunately, the EMP and the bomb coming in already. Sound barrier invested as well. They're wasting no time. It's another one of these rapid engages coming from Southern Miss. Look at this aggression, sheer power coming out here on the Primal Rage. Crow desperately trying to slow the Eagles down, but what can one Blackbird do versus all of these angry Eagles? And the end result is that they do get a touch on the point, but isn't enough. The hack coming in there on the Diva will shut it down. Jumble coming in over the top there. J-Double just trying to keep it alive. Unfortunately, he can't find the wall. That's an unfortunate situation for a Lucio to be in. He will die. He will go all the way back down to bronze or whatever in the pit. And they'll unleash the Primal here as well, just trying to keep it going. And instead, it'll just be a burn down right there. Nothing they can do. An awkward engage at the end here, but I think it is over in Prognosis. There's not much they can do.
It very much so is. And I'll point something out here, Corback. Juicebox Hero losing where they initially lost the point, right, to Centre College. One thing we noticed was that he overextended with no real support and then died. Then they lost the point. Massive shatter here, by the way. This is the point. Which one is this, actually? Which one of them? It's the first one. It was the first
one, yeah.
This is a huge shatter. Oh, the turn on a dime for that one. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. It wasn't a Buddy Ace. No, there was a Diva got one of them. I lied to you guys. I apologize profusely. I thought I would know that for sure. No, I'll talk about it once again. Juicebox Hero overextended and lost his life without much support behind it, and the rest of his team was forced to die off basically just the same, but they kind of just reset themselves. They knew they needed to take a step back. They weren't going to really engage that well with that. Their Winston tank frontline, and so it was just all she wrote. But the second fight where they extended through their own chokeholds, they threw the Diva Bomb, which flushes the players out, and while they're escaping the Diva Bomb, they run in, they drop the beat, they go ahead and extend with the Primal Rage as well. They full sent in every tanking utility and ultimate that they could do. Full HP, Primal Raged, Diva Bomb. There was no escaping the dangers that were present to them, and there was no way they could burn down Juicebox Hero in time. He said, you burned me down last time. There's no way I'm giving you the chance to do it this time around.
No, he definitely wouldn't be brought down in that particular circumstance. And I do think on the main, right, it was a bit of a stronger setup, all things considered, from the side of Southern Miss. But these Koth maps, I give them a grain of salt. I always give them a little bit of caution. I think I say this every broadcast, but it's pertinent every single time. You just don't know. Some teams are really good at Koth, and they'll transition to the next map, and suddenly things will not go so well. So we'll see if that holds true here. Somehow I kind of doubt it. I feel like we saw a little bit of Southern Miss supremacy right here, but you never know, Infernosis. You just don't.
None of the games today have gone past 3 maps, and it's a little unexpected, especially when some of these seeds are actually fairly close, 4th and 5th, around that range. These should be somewhat closer games. Some of the games were close, but they still didn't go past that. But we're going to take a quick break. One of the teams is going to make some substitutions, bring players in. So we'll be back really quickly with more action here for the NECC, so make sure to stay tuned for more Overwatch action. Welcome back, everybody, to some more NECC Overwatch action. I can't tell you how hard it is to not say NECC Valor to NECC R6. It is so difficult. It's more difficult than you would think here. The whole season I haven't done Overwatch. Jump in. It's challenge. This is a challenge.
Challenge is being a Renaissance man, dude. What are you supposed to do? A Renaissance caster.
I'm the Swiss knife, the Swiss Army knife of the NECC. They throw me in anywhere they can get me. The only place they haven't thrown me in is Rocket League, which I technically can do, and League of Legends, which no, keep that away from me.
Too complicated for me. I was gonna, it's very Da Vinci-esque. I'm sure he had to juggle lots of different things as well, but even he wouldn't cast League of Legends. I'm pretty sure I heard from someone. It's too toxic, is what he said. He wrote that in those notebooks.
Yeah,
if you're ever
the Da Vinci Chronicles or whatever
Da
it
Vinci
is.
Code, wasn't it? Don't get me started on that. I have deep-rooted opinions on that book, so we'll skip right past that. We'll talk about Overwatch instead. And it is an interesting matchup we've seen so far here, actually. I mean, I was saying it was kind of Southern Miss supremacy, and I'll stand by that, Infernosis, but I think there's a distinct possibility that coming out in a more organized setup might really benefit Centre College. I think one of the things that we saw them struggling with was a lot of timing issues, timing of ultimates, timing of engages. You often saw Southern Miss grabbing the initiative, which is such a, any, Sun Tzu, whatever you want to, Clausewitz, they'll tell you grabbing the initiative is a very important concept in any sort of conflict. And I think that's really been something that's been detrimental to Centre in a lot of these engagements. I hope that in a map like this where they can better set that timing, it'll more dramatically benefit them. I mean, these compositions are pretty straightforward. I don't think there's a lot that needs to be gone over. The only difference is reflex on that May. That could be a big change up here and a big advantage to Southern Miss.
I want to point out there's 3 players on the Southern Miss side that I distinctly remember time and time again giving MVP nods. It was Juicebox, Bruce Goose, and Jacob. All the time. Jacob was a sleeping giant till the playoffs. I think we gave him 1 nod throughout for MVP, but playoff season was where he shined, and I don't expect that to stray away here, and we're seeing that continuously come out, but a very early start for the side of Southern Miss, and Immortality Field had to be utilized as the quick rush was attempted, but the Ice Wall separated the mainline tank, and Galvanijo will lose their life. Now it's Centre College forced to take that step back, but ultimates have started to charge up for the Southern Miss side. This next fight could be where we see our first shatter.
Crow really needs to get in a good position here. He's the key DPS in this setup, the one who needs to do the majority, the lion's share of the damage. Going up to the top will give him that high ground positioning. This could be a good position to play out of for the Hanzo, but they need to move quite fast. Good cutoff there by Pasty. That's a great early kill.
Yeah, getting rid of the healer towards that back line will also get rid of any chance for the ultimate to go through. No extra damage assistance where necessary, but they also still have to worry about more than just that. Crow sends out the Dragon Strike. It not just finds one, but two. A complete and utter dismantling so far here for Centre College against Southern Miss. Pasty's the last one alive, and it's not because Pasty survived, it's because Pasty died first.
Yeah, it's a huge loss. I mean, you think about the value an Immortality Field would have had in that particular situation. A very good read by Crow. And Pasty needs to be careful here again. He might actually get brought down if he's not quite cautious. But fortunately, the rest of Southern Miss is able to help him out. It's interesting that that fight went the way that it did when you consider the fact that they lost Pasty so early. I thought that maybe we'd see a little bit more pushback from Southern Miss, but I think we're getting it delayed here.
It's a very big possibility. Shatter goes down. This shuts down not just the Coalescence, but puts the tanks on the ground, which now is allowed for a lot of the DPS for Southern Miss to be sent forward. You do see the Diva Bomb getting sent. It doesn't find much impact, but they will still find 2 kills off of the past engagement, and they're trying to flush out the last few remaining players. That would be the Crow of the opposing side of Centre College, and they'll accomplish that goal. Southern Miss steps up. Now they can push the payload just a little bit back, and we've got this fatal funnel that is this initial archway. The question is, how is Centre College going to adapt and move past it?
Yeah, we will see. That's going to be a key aspect of this. They're going for the long rotate here, I think, which is a valid strategy for what they need to do. They have a very solid ult combo. They just need to get it off first, because if the Blizzard comes out and the High Noon comes out early, it's going to be a very short fight.
Mike goes forward. Shatter doesn't really find any impact, and a Diva Bomb will be sent. Those comboed can be quite impactful, but it doesn't doing much, and a Blizzard will be sent as well. A large amount of impact being done, but it's Juicebox here to come up with the first. Galvanijo's out for the count. McCree on McCree violence. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Cassidy on Cassidy violence goes in favor of Southern Miss. My apologies. And then you'll see the 2 tank front lines of Southern Miss clap off 2 more for Centre College. It is a dismantling once again, as they're just trying to find the last few stragglers of Centre College, and they'll complete it by taking out J-Double.
Yeah, the ult bank here very much, well, I was going to say very much in favor of Southern Miss, but honestly, by the time that this next engagement starts, it will be the Shatter, the Bomb, the High Noon, and the Amplification Matrix all coming online. The swap coming in from Blaku Blaku over onto the Zarya is going to set them back. It's going to take them a while to get that grab in play. I mean, obviously, the Grab Dragon is going to be the playmaker, but here they go, a very quick engagement to start things off.
Mike goes forward, Dragon Strike is sent, as well as having the Immortality Field will keep them surviving through it. But now you'll see the Diva Bomb be popped. I think this one out of necessity, not desire. It doesn't really find anything or any sort of impact. Jacob, though, on Cassidy comes up big, finding 2. Refrags once again. It's that Dave-on-Dave violence, and it's going to drop in favor of Southern Miss. Now it's just the last few stragglers. The Coalescence will be popped here for Jellyman, but beyond that, it's not finding much impact. Instead, 2 tanks will do it. Finally, Jellyman will clean up onto Bruce Goose. Southern Miss had the advantageous start, just can't complete and finish.
Again, the ult advantage is sort of swinging back towards Centre College. It might be enough for them to break this open, namely looking at this Shatter from Galvanijo. It's going to have to be huge, but if he can hit it well, he probably wins this fight outright.
Full charge here for Blaku as well here, Corbeck. This is an engagement that's going to be very advantageous for them because it's 81% for that ult as well. Charging ever closer, 10% away now, but a Shatter has to be engaged. Juicebox will eat that Shatter, but beyond that, an Immortality Field will be popped to save him. They'll dive in on top of it. Here comes the Graviton Surge comboed with a Dragon Strike, and Crow finds impact tremendously, swinging and killing the rest of the side. Going to be your main take of Galvanijo, comboing with Blaku James. They'll keep themselves calm, coordinated, and together. They've got a whopping 3 minutes to push at this last few meters.
The problem, though, is that they use so much right there getting through this door. It's going to take them a long time, I think, to achieve power parity back on the side of Southern Miss in terms of ults. But, I mean, these are quick engagements. They're very good for the team. The Amplification Matrix could come out at any time here. They might not even need it, though, to win.
Immortality Field popped. It will start to go in favor of Southern Miss, though, and it will continue to do so. Bruce Goose and Jacob. Jacob finding 2 more. Reflex will step up as the May, taking out Jelly Main for the more of the competition, and Centre College will choose to take a step back. After losing that fight, they need to re-coordinate themselves and piece together an attack. They don't have very many ultimates, but the Lucio, the Reinhardt, and of course, their Hanzo are coming up with their ultimates, and these could be devastating to the competition.
Going right back in on the hard engage. EG Jacob doing a really good job of just clearing the board there with that high noon, forcing them back. Jelly Main dying early too will set them back a fair piece here. You kind of, need your main healer, right, if you're going to make a convincing push, and they very much want the grab dragon, but it's just not going to manifest yet.
Coalescence Ascent, this could have a huge impact, but underneath the payload, they'll drop the Shatter, and it's all Galvanijo in the feed. 4K to his name, as well as having that massive Fire Strike. 2 of them alone from just the charge. And while you see them trying to clean up and stay alive, it does not seem to matter. Was that a re-mech kill as well into Crow?
It sure was. Yeah, I don't know what happened necessarily with Crow there, but he gets the old Titanfall treatment. You hear the high noon coming out from the opposite direction. I think it was Who's James unleashing that one. It's not really finding anyone. Reflex has the Blizzard. The sound barrier has already been invested. The sound barrier coming on the other side, and that's going to cool them down just a little bit. The Reinhardt drops, and here's the rest of the press from Southern Miss. And a very quick, clean engagement there to stop the push.
What's the coffee type that has to do with like a cold press?
Isn't it? No, I know I don't drink coffee, so I have no idea. But isn't it cold press?
He would know. Is
that like
there is cold press coffee, but I think
it's
there's like types of coffees that have like specific names that are like Italian and whatnot. So I was just trying to do it. I was going to make a reference to it. But Blizzard does get sent out here from Reflex. It manages to freeze down 2. It's going to take out James. It's going to take out Galvanijo. And it allows for the rest of Southern Miss to now push off that pressure. And Riot more specifically will be the player to do so. Blocku, Crow both fall to the Lucio. Juicebox Hero will clean up their Lucio of the competition. Southern Miss winning that fight handily. They really only had to expend 1 ultimate, maybe 2. I think Riot used his as well to get the job done.
Yeah, imagine a Blizzard that gets its job done. The pressure coming in immediately from Blocko. Blocko throws that down range. It's a good grab. Oh, but they can't find the angle on it. Crow's going to have to blind fire this through the box. I mean, it's a very good dragon. It's a great dragon. The amazing follow-up there from Galvanijo to keep it alive. I couldn't have asked for much more there out of your main tank in that scenario when Blocko kind of fired a little bit too early, and that might just have scored him through to the end.
It's going to be extremely close for them to do so. They will throw that a wall, separating Galvanijo from his team, but it goes down fairly quickly. Now you see the Deadeye be employed. Jacob comes up to find Galvanijo. Main tank gone now for the Centre College side, and they have to fight in a bad spot where they're in overtime. If they step off of this, it's all over, and a Diva Bomb is sent. Bruce Goose is the one to find impact with it. It takes out the Lucio of J-Double and can now re-mech to rejoin the fight and engage towards the Lucio of the opposing side. They're trying to keep themselves together. They're diving in both situations, but the spawns just aren't there for Southern Miss. They're forced now to step over towards Hammond. They've also had a massive Dragon Strike be attempted towards their face, but Crow does not live much longer to actually tell the tale. Finally, some kills dropping for Southern Miss, but it seems to be all she wrote, as it's just the last few stragglers, the trickling in, so to say, as they try to keep it alive, but with only 1.69 meters to go, the fight eventually does have to end, and Centre College is the team that is consistently coming out on top in these engagements.
They're still going here. I mean, this is a pretty solid fight for the defenders to waste as much time as they have. The investment of the sound barrier there from J-Double, that leads to a string of kills. A very good Blizzard, though, coming back on the other side. Is it enough from Reflex? I just don't think they have the bodies quite present despite the respawn advantage, and I think that's going to be the end result of this. This Diva Bomb coming in here as well should deny a touch. Pasty has to teleport straight into it, and that will be that. Well, they do complete here, Infernosis, but it was a slog, and they run out of time as well. So, I mean, you get the 3 points, but you always want it with a little bit left in the bank if you can do so.
Yeah, if we do see Southern Miss swing theirs entirely in their direction, then what? At best, Centre College can go for the tie, the draw, if they try to go for it once again. If that's a possibility they want to go for it, then yeah. At most here, we need Centre College to completely deny Southern Miss if they want to win this map. They absolutely have to. So the question is, on my mind, Corbeck, what defensive setup does Centre College need to do to deny Southern Miss? We've seen what they like to play. They haven't super strayed away from that one. What's the best lineup for them in terms of denial?
I mean, you're looking at it honestly. The
Mirror
only thing I
comping
would
still,
switch,
basically.
yeah, the only thing that I would switch out in this is I would switch Jellymane over to a Baptiste, just for the immortality field and the amplification matrix. I think Baptiste probably the support with more utility here. The raw healing power of the Moira remains immense to this day, but the Baptiste just offers that immortality field, which is just such a critical piece of utility. A lot of this is going to come down to Crow. This is essentially a mirror matchup. The Maze are going to be the differentiating factor because she has so much CC ability, the wall, the power to change the battlefield, right, in a very, very effective manner. That's going to be the person to watch here. And E.G. Jacob there going for the early swing on the Widowmaker. I think that's only going to last a few seconds. So I actually disagree with this high ground hold. That I would not have done. You are a brawl composition. You want to get right into the gut of the enemy team. You don't want to faff about up here.
Well, they can jump down, and it's not the worst, but at this time, they're kind of being walled down. They don't really have the ability. That's almost first pip on the point as well, but Immortality Field will be dropped. That will buy a little bit of time for Southern Miss, but beyond that, they need to actually clean up the kills, and they'll start to cascade that going forward. Juicebox and Jacob have been a prime duo combination so far, and they're continuing to be it as this objective starts to fall in their favor. And it's just Jacob. I think he's found 3 now. Juicebox has found 2, and then we saw 1 drop in Pasty. I mean, or sorry, for Reflex. It's been a very strong performance so far from Southern Miss. Centre College get caught off guard and then pay the price.
Terrible positioning, like actually appalling positioning. That was a fight entirely lost by the fact that they started on the high ground with a brawl composition. They should have started on the low ground, tried to cut them off as they were coming through the hotel, split the team, find an individual target. Instead, all the pressure was put on Centre College to get back to the point. The Maywall coming up there, preventing them from rotating in immediately. It was very well played from Southern Miss to see that vulnerability and take advantage of it.
We call that in R6 knowing or watching and imitating, but not knowing what you're doing or why you're doing it. I think that was kind of what we saw. They've seen that strat before and wanted to implement it, but speaking of strats, speaking of ults, you'll see a nice shatter be placed. It doesn't do much, though. Juicebox dies immediately afterwards, and it's really been that May on May violence, and Crow has started to come out of their shell fairly into this one. You said Crow would be very important for them, and I don't think there's any denial of that one. Crow is pivotal towards their success, not just in terms of the util as a whole, much like the immortality field's useful as Baptiste. Those walls are massively important to help your team as a whole and deny that backline and force them to funnel around a different direction.
Yeah, it's the case. I mean, the walls are the key part. It's another good one right there, but the Blizzard here really tipping the balance. Blaku's ult gets eaten in the midst of this as well, which is just unfortunate indeed. It's just going to allow Southern Miss to paint the kill feed blue. They don't need any more excuse than that, and they're able to hold on to some ults here as well, which is absolutely crucial. I'll be very surprised here if Centre College gets a meaningful retouch before this second point gets completed.
It almost feels like Centre College got caught off guard by how quickly Southern Miss was able to walk forward, right? They just didn't keep intel around the corner, and it just felt like Southern Miss were in their face with that can-do attitude before they even knew it hit them.
They're immediately going in for the engagement again. The Blizzard coming back the other direction. Bruce Goose there gets the eat on it. Crow just unfortunately not able to get anything off. Bruce Goose has been too strong there. Hungry Diva coming in big for the team. The follow-up very savage here. They should be able to clean up most of these kills, and definitely Centre College reeling right now. Cannot find their level, their equilibrium here at all, and they're getting punished for it time and again. 5 minutes going into this last stage is kind of absurd, honestly, and you're going to see an almost immediate attempt at a re-engage here, but this feels very much vain.
Hungry Diva. It's a good line. I like that one, Corbeck. I like that one a lot, but I'll tell you who doesn't really like it, Centre College. They've had a lot of struggles facing off against Bruce Goose. There's a reason why we voted him MVP so many times. He's phenomenal as a player and completes his utility. You do see a shadow go down. Juicebox looking to find some impact. Will do just that as his hammer slams into the heads of not just himself, but the competition as a whole. Riot boops one off the side. Jacob completes the fight onto their opposing side. And it's just cleaned up by Southern Miss. Blue in the feed, and there's nothing that Centre College have been able to do to deny that. While Galvanijo can make the return to the objective, same as Jellymane, they're not able to do anything besides that, and there's really no strong contention when it comes to the fight. No trickle-down economics towards their play. Not like we saw Southern Miss attempt to do for their defensive buying time. Centre College died, felt themselves a little bit too much, and 4 minutes remain for Southern Miss.
Yeah, this is a very similar Southern Miss team to what we saw in the last map. I think their aggression is really doing them good credit here for most of these fights. Center College feels like they're constantly in a position where they're more reactive than proactive, and I think they're getting punished for that. At the start of the map, we talked about kind of initiative, right? Seizing initiative, using initiative. And Center College just has never gotten it. They have never been able to roll high enough on the dice. They're always behind the ball, whatever metaphor you want to use for it. It's just not worked out. And as a result, Southern Miss has very much felt like they're in control. They're setting the tempo. They're engaging how they want, when they want. If Center College is going to battle back on the maps that come after this, and I'm talking about the maps that come after this because I think very unlikely that they can hold this point for 4 minutes and 13 seconds when they got absolutely pasted here last time we saw this. On the next few maps, they really have to figure out how they can kind of take away some of that initial advantage from Southern Miss. They have to be the one initiating the fights, and when they do initiate the fights, they tend to win Infernosis. They really do okay, but usually they're going into every engagement kind of a man down, and it's costing them. Let's see if they can hold this, though.
The hope really and truly is that they will, but some early ult charge attempted by Blocku eaten up by Bruce, and will instead be their snack. And the first kill will drop in favor of Southern Miss as well. Pasty takes out the DPS, that's Who's James. And now it's just up to Crow to be able to dish out that hurt as their Reinhardt Galvanijo has been taken to the wayside. Same as Blocku. Southern Miss have swung themselves now into a probable map win. There's no one to contest. There's no time. And an ice wall will be placed to make it even more difficult. You could feel the heart break there for Centre College. As soon as that first kill dropped, it felt like the wind got sucked out of their lungs and they couldn't breathe and felt suffocated on the objective. That's exactly where you see Southern Miss be their most important. That's where you see them play their best. When they're brawling, that in-your-face can-do attitude. The only times we see them really struggle against this side was when we saw Crow pop off with multiple Dragon Strikes. That was their undoing, the Grim Reaper of their side. And it was these fatal funnels, these corners that they utilized. Beyond that, that really and truly was the only times I really saw Southern Miss struggle in a lot of ways.
Yeah, again though, I mean, in those instances, at least that play of the game we saw right there, the ults were kind of moving in favor, right? They had started in favor of Center College. They made the play with the grab. It didn't quite work out the way they expected, but it set them up for success on the other side. And it was probably one of the few times in that entire map that we saw Center College actively pull that off. And if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive, they've got to figure out how to execute those kind of combos quicker and more frequently here across these maps. Or map 3 is going to be a very short and unfortunately unpleasant affair for the folks over at Center College.
Yeah, it's maybe another game here, quarterback, where we see it not go past a BO3. A full reverse sweep is required at this point in time here. That's a tough ask. It's a really truly tough ask. Somebody who was it that asked me earlier? It was Berkeley Stevens. I love Berkeley. Used to be Yelkrip, now Ult Charge. He brought it up to me. He put me on the spot, and he says, "Do you think it's possible for them to return and bring your full reverse sweep?" And I felt like I was pinned down. I was like, "That's a rude question. I don't." But I'll answer it, and I'll give them guidance for how I think they could do it. In this situation, reverse sweeps are tough, dude. They're really difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I know we play R6, we were on one side for the entire time, like for a very long time. You have to come back from like 5-1 halves, right? You have to come back from huge and extreme sides. It's easy to look at a reverse sweep there and be like, oh, that's somewhat normal to see a big reverse like that. This, it's a bit more difficult for me to picture that in my mind, to see them return and bring it to a BO5. I'd have to see what the next map is before I give it a chance. I don't know what it is. I'll wait for the booth to give me that map. What was that? We'll go to a break instead. So we'll know afterwards, so we'll bring it up then. But we'll head to that quick break now, so I'll actually have the talking point afterwards. But I'm Infernosis, here by Quarterback. More NECC Overwatch coming right back in a few short minutes.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to NECC Overwatch here. It's the playoffs, the quarterfinals to be exact. I'm Quarterback, and alongside me is Infernosis, and we are watching Southern Mississippi Eagle Esports versus Centre College Overwatch. And, well, it's been a bit of a Southern Miss supremacy sort of evening, hasn't it, Infernosis? They have had the better of Centre College on 2 maps now, and I can't help but feel like that might not change going into our third.
Yeah, it's really been a Southern Miss slugfest, right? I like to use the word barn burner because it makes Chief angry, but he's not here,
Yes.
so I feel like it's not a great word for it. But yeah, it has been Southern Miss's game to lose, and they have not been doing that in the slightest. Even when we saw them slightly struggle to hold defensively, their attack was 100% put together. They lost what? 1-2 team fights as a whole, I think, throughout the engagement. And the third one they struggled on, but like they put themselves back in the respawns with their side. So yeah, it wasn't a game that they were necessarily struggling with, but we are going over to Temple of Anubis, so there will be a lot of difficulties here. 2 CP points, so your defensive side has a massive advantage. So maybe that's what a side like Centre College, who played fairly well on their on their attack, it could be an even worse situation for them, considering that Southern Miss's defense was just enough to force the overtime for Centre College.
I have not seen this map in a while, actually, to be honest. I think this might be the first time that I see Anubis played here in NECC. I know other teams have played it, but in terms of actually casting it, I think it's been quite some time for me. So, yeah, 2CP, I mean, there's a reason they're removing the game mode from Overwatch 2 whenever that appears, and it's because it's not very fun for a lot of teams, and it can be quite difficult. I mean, think about things like respawn advantage. That's going to be a huge factor here. That's something to watch out for. Obviously, this is a very entrenched composition that Southern Miss is showing us. The double shield is very much set up for maximizing range damage. Reflex obviously feeling very confident here, enough so that they'll use the Sigma shield there for the early engage, but then he falls back, and that's when the real meat of this guns start firing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
This is, oh my goodness. No. I'm not even casting this. This is actual genuine awe right now. Quarterback. We watched every single moment of that one. I don't want to hype up our observer too much. I don't want to get an ego, but a really good job. That caught every single bit of that one. When you sacrifice the Sigma shield to cover your Hanzo like that, it kind of makes it a bit more difficult to return it, and it took them a little bit of time to do so. That's why the Orisa gravity pull, it was pivotal. It forced the Reinhardt to take a step back, which then gave sightlines to a couple of the players that overextended past that shields, and that's where Reflex picks off the last one, picks up the one trying to step up to the outside, then a second one, then their third. Too much damage for a Hanzo, and there was no denying it for Centre College.
Blaku trying to form the front line here as the accretion comes out. The immortality field has to be invested as well. They have at least set their battle line, have Centre College, but they're having a lot of trouble getting through the front door, as is so often the case. Crow here now trying to do a little bit of the reflex act himself, but having a much harder time. And there's the Gravitic Dragons combo. That's one you don't see often, but it is brutally effective, as 2 members of Centre College find out to their detriment. And now the cutoff will come in as well. I get the feeling that Southern Miss is not in a particular merciful mood at the moment. And, well, Juicebox here are going to go ahead and just get hyper aggro, and Bruce Goose will happily clean up those kills on the backside.
Just clean work for them here, Corvac, right? There was really nothing they needed to do beyond that. They knew that they could stagger the spawns a little bit further, which gives them a better position, and it buys a little bit more time. That's exactly what they need. They know that Centre College can defend them at least a little bit, but they also know that they can attack them fairly well from what we saw in that last map. However, 2CP, cursed point for them right now, and this is a cursed map. Nobody really likes the game mode, like you've mentioned. And now when you're adding in the fact that they dropped down the amplification of the Matrix, they're just going to hide away. Centre College is going to bleed even more time away from them. And Centre College now is forced to rush through this back alley once again.
In here, done this. I mean, I know how difficult this kind of attack is. You'll see the shields coming in on the initial engage. Bob is thrown in now to just create even more trouble, a fly in the ointment, as it were. Reflex is down, though, and that's a big kill. They've managed to get the Hanzo out of this, but Bruce Goose is giving them no time to rest, and then Reflex gets res back into it. Now Blaku attempting their own little Gravitic Dragon combo. It's very solid. They managed to section off Bruce Goose here as well. Could bring him down quite easily. In comes the flashbang there, drops him almost immediately, and they are clear for the point.
Yeah, when you get through a chokehold like that, everything feels just wonderful. You feel like you're on top of the world, but well, they started to put something together. Maybe we saw a glimpse of Southern Miss being able to buy a little bit of extra time, as there was Jacob trying to go with that Ash from the high ground, maybe 1 or 2 players. Boost up, the Baptista J double says, no, thank you, not going to allow that any sort of way. And now it's going to be second point going underway. Centre College with a fabulous retake, bringing themselves out of essentially a giant pit. And now have Southern Miss on their worst position. Well, I guess it's defensive's best position, but they now have to be make it or break it, almost perfect to a degree, besides the respawns, to get this job done.
is ironically both your last stand and also a spectacular place to
Yeah.
be. And they've got the good ult advantage here for them as well. I think this initial fight now, especially, will be a clear win for Southern Miss.
It does feel like it's going to be that way. You can see the Gravitic Flux go down, now forcing them to engage. There was an Immortality field that's popped. Pasty will remove it, and now the rest of Southern Miss can just pop in, deal with the damage. And then you see Juicebox Hero just holding down the left click to get the job done. I hate Orisa so much, but their hitbox is so easy to hit as a sniper, so like it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, she has to be in a double shield setup like this to have significant viability. I mean, in that situation, I actually think Bruce Goose could have held on to his Gravitic. I don't think they needed it. Once Jellymane was down on the Zenyatta, a lot of the punch was taken out of Centre College's composition. But, I mean, he's done a good job of almost, getting 30-ish percent, 37%, almost 40 now back on it. So that was solid indeed. And this is a nasty little cutoff here as well.
Reflex is extremely low, was healing up, but not fast enough. The rock, the meteor, the whatever you want to call it, coming out from the Sigma of the opposing side of Blocku. Blocku takes the head off Reflex and forcing the resurrection here from Riot. The DPS are trying to be aggressive, which is not the bad decision, but at the same time, they have ultimates to work with, one of those being the Dragon Strike, but it's being emphatically countered now, as you will see the Transcendence go through, as well as seeing the Gongos of Death be dropped and employed. They're trying to be able to increase their damage, now having to deal with Bob in the same process, but it's Juicebox Hero in the middle of that distraction that cleans up two. Reflex with the bow, puts one to the body, and cleans up Crow. And the rest of Centre College flushed away back through where they came, and Southern Miss continue to hold on to this point.
Yeah, it was a critical bomb right there, actually, coming out from E.G. Jacob. Did a really good job of just kind of disrupting the setup, and that was critical because I don't think it really allowed Galvanijo here to reset, right? That was a big part of that. And once the rotation is kind of broken for the Orisa, their effectiveness goes down dramatically.
Oh my goodness. How do you squeeze that arrow through that of all places? Of the targets to hit, it hits Crow. It's a clean kill. Galvanijo will be able to take out Pasty, but two more drop in favor of Southern Miss. Juicebox and Bruce Goose, the tank combo up front, deal damage up front and clean up two more. Now it's just the last few stragglers being flushed back once again. And with a minute and 10 seconds on the clock, Centre College only has a few more pushes in them if they want to be able to take this point.
I don't know how it works either, threading those arrows in like that. They always seem to find the one person who you don't want them to find in the mix, and that was very much the case right there, considering that Crow had that ult in the tank and was preparing to use it with the amplification matrix that would have boosted the initial arrow, and they've already lost a DPS early on again in this push, but honestly, in this time frame, you've just got to commit.
They have the Dragon Strike. Crow is teasing it right now. You can see he's tempted to do it the entire time. Will finally employ it, but I think most of Southern Miss was seemingly aware of it, so they took a huge step back, saying, hey, we're not going to, box you up front, and we'll allow for Reflex to now pop theirs. It's going to be effective, much more than we saw for Crow. It finds one. Juicebox cleans up for another, but the refrag comes back now as Blocku finds two more. Sigmas have been very important for them, and it's only continuing as he finds yet another target. Juicebox will be resurrected, though. A Valkyrie has been popped by Riot, and they're trying to use that as a great form of utilization to heal and keep the team alive, and it is not failing whatsoever. Centre College are bleeding the last few remnants of their side. Jellymane is performing a magic trick now as the Coalescence is in hand, but not actually doing anything, unfortunately. As they pop yet another Gravitic Flux popping down. Blocku's charged that quite well. That is now just being burned down quite swiftly, trying to keep these corner pocket players out of the fight. Will be able to get one. Is somehow still alive until you see the Gravitic Flux drop in favor of Bruce Goop. The 3K, the 4K as well. Getting rid of the soldier and cleaning up this map's first round.
Last match, it was a lot of Juicebox Hero kind of being the dominant force. On this one, it feels like it's been surrendered a little bit to Bruce Goose. She's been really the difference maker on a lot of these plays for Southern Miss. And unfortunately, they won't even get a tick, Centre College, on point number 3 or 2. Very unfortunate indeed for them. I can imagine that's quite frustrating as well, because it looked like maybe, I was going to say it was a bit of a misplay, I think, it was Blocku, I believe, on the Sigma to just remain in that engagement. right? Because when you looked at the amount of time that ticked down before they actually killed the Sigma off, you could have gotten probably a full team reset and gone back in and tried for another whole team fight. Instead, you kind of forced Center College into a position where they're almost trickling in because the Sigma wanted to invest so much in that fight, yada, yada, yada. But it looked like it might work for like a second there when Jellyman came in with the Coalescence. Things were looking okay through a damage orb, but whatever, that's pretty micro, all things considered. But in the end, it was a very, very solid effort by Bruce Goose to shut it back down and kind of stabilize the line. And that's what you want out of an off tank in a lot of situations. It's a difficult role to play. You have to be able to really read the flow of the game and know where to react. And did a spectacular job of it here across this Temple of Anubis map. Now Southern Miss attacking the Center College. I mean, if Kings Row is anything to go by, it's not going to be particularly easy for Center, but if there's ever a map where you're going to hold the team up, it is most certainly this one.
Yeah, this is the map to do it. There's a nice clip here for the NECC of me last semester with, I believe it was Berkeley, who mentioned time travel because they did it with more time than you actually start with in the game. I think they had like 4 minutes and 8 seconds. Great clip. Caroline and our observers even talking about it right now. Funniest thing, but the dive is going forward already. Dive's going forward already, but you can see Jacob doing my favorite thing in the universe, playing Widowmaker, trying to find that first pick. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do that much, and 2 of their players will lose their life, which means just a quick reset for the side of Southern Miss. They know that if they lose 1 or 2, take a step back. There's no need to engage in a disadvantageous position, especially when you know that it's too difficult of a chokehold to get past already when you have all 5 or 6.
Very half-hearted dive, if I'm honest with you, Infernosis, and they're getting punished for it right here. It's the support line is solid and certainly can back up the dive, but you know, they're not getting a lot of value out of the Widowmaker despite the good positioning. They're not really able to get Reflex into a position where they can actually be impactful, and the end result is that these dives are falling a little flat. This is good though. I mean, they're asserting a little bit of dominance here, but look at how transient it is. It really doesn't last for very long, and already they're trying for these brief engages with Juicebox, but he just cannot sustain in this position. This is about the best luck that they've had. Who's James here sectioned off, might actually die, and okay, good, they managed to get the McCree down, but there's still the rest of the team to deal with.
It's just going to come down to like the individual engagements. For Center College, they need to return back to the objective. They've been able to do that, but they haven't really been able to piece anything together, and Bruce Goose is dropping out the Graviton Surge, making it even more difficult, and they'll clean up spectacularly off of it. Jacob finally finds their kill with the Widowmaker, but Ryan and Juicebox, including the player Bruce Goose, we're doing the rest of the work. Southern Miss clean up house, take the first point, and they've got plenty of time afterwards. But Center College had a pretty good time bank too. It wasn't the worst performance from them. I don't think second point is going to be the best for the Widowmaker, though. I hate dubbing on Widowmaker. I one-trick Widowmaker here, Corback. I don't know if you knew that. But I also agree, it's not that strong, and there's a reason why it's not prevalent right now, and it just doesn't feel like it's going to find the impact you want, especially with a Ryan Shield up front, and you're having to rely on a Winston. Everyone's going to be mobile, but a Pulse Bomb sent. That'll start things off very strong for the first kill, and Reflex finds their second.
A brutal read right there to pick out Crow with the ult, but the fight's still going. Juicebox Hero has confirmed some kills. Bruce Goose is confirming them. Finally, EG Jacob getting clocked in there on the Widowmaker. Only 1 defender left, kind of in stall position, trying to hold it out, and it's just not enough. And Southern Miss sails by Centre College here to secure their next spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, this was a very dominant performance from them. They were basically uncontested when it came to their attacking. Their defense had a couple things to piece together, but their attacking was, when they got past it and got past that fatal funnel in the beginning, they were unstoppable. It was momentum. It's all about that drive, all about that power. You know, they managed to keep themselves alive and stay hungry and devour. So, you know, it's a thing to look at. I don't know if you catch that reference.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Don't worry. Yeah, no, it was a very solid performance from Southern Miss. I don't really know what more we could honestly say about it. I mean, their tank line looked dominant. Their supports were doing exactly what they needed to. I mean, I will give credit to Centre College. There were moments that looked quite convincing. The early start of that Anubis defense, for example, looked very good. They had a couple of great combo plays on Kings Row. But when stuff started getting really difficult, when things started to go awry, Centre College just got too bent out of shape. They weren't able to snap back into form. Meanwhile, on the other side, Eagle Esports, they just never looked fussed, right? It was always an adaptation, even right there in that very frustrating start to Anubis. They quickly identified the target that they needed to find, right? It was Who's James, who got knocked off the top deck, and they closed down and got the kill. That's basically exactly what you want to do. And at the end of the day, Southern Miss just a stronger team.
Yeah, it was a very dominant performance from them. You can't give too much hate to Center College. They played their best. They made it here, but there has to be a victor, and the victor is going to be that Eagles side, and they took it in a very nice fashion. But we'll take a quick break, though. We're going to have an interview with one of the players for our winning side and hear what maybe they have to say about it after a quick 3-0 victory for them. So make sure to stay tuned for more NECC action. We'll be right back with the player to talk about this more.